Well, good afternoon and welcome back to Church Connect. We're really glad that you've joined us again for this second edition. As if you've been following Life Connect all week, you'll know we've been going and looking through this really important subject of rest and Sabbath and what it looks like for us who are followers of Jesus. And today we're particularly going to be drilling down on what it looks like for those of us who are church leaders or involved in church work in any way, shape or form, how we should apply these principles to our lives. My name is Tim Cracknell. I'm the pastor of Forest Community Church and also County's church planting officer. And I have Aderyn with me today. So hi, Aderyn.
Hi, Tim. It's good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you with us. Aderyn is one of our leaders from the church in Cinderford. She's also a trustee of Counties and she's full of wisdom. I know she's very modest, but it's great to have you with us. So I look forward to what you have to share because I know how busy you are. So you'll have a lot to speak into this, Aderyn, so thank you. Jesus, when he was talking to his disciples, he said these words, "Let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while." And he said this because there were so many people coming and going that Jesus and his apostles didn't even have time to eat. It's in Mark's Gospel, chapter 6 and verse 31. And I guess if Jesus struggled and needed that rest, we need it even more. Anyway, we're going to go into an interview with Kim Hobbs and Helen Rimmer. So Kim is the founder of Cornergate Foundation, and they're an organisation that work with prisoners and ex-offenders, help them to successfully resettle after prison and convictions. And so it's a really stressful job he has and role he has, and he works with counties too. And so we're going to jump straight into that interview where he unpacks what it's like to be really busy as an evangelist in this role.
I guess I was, it's a cliche, but I was on fire with that passion that, you know, God had given me a mission and I was going to go and do it. And lots of people around me, I guess at the time, were telling me, "Kim, are you thinking about taking breaks? Are you doing this? Are you doing that?" And I thought I was. But clearly I wasn't, but I kept thinking that I need to do this for the moment, just for a short while, because that will really put a foundation down and I can make something that's going to last, and these connections are important and that's important. And I kept telling myself everything was important, and that's a silly place to be, if I can put it like that. It all came to a head on the 29th of April, a day, it's very clear in my mind. I took a guy to court. He had to answer a court action, and eventually, at the end of the day, a very intense day, he was sentenced to jail. And he broke down in the dock and he sobbed and he screamed and he fell on the floor and he was thrashing around. And it was a really chaotic and emotional time. And I feel emotional telling you about it. And he screamed out, he said, "Just kill me now. Just kill me now." I've known this guy since 2015, and it meant a lot. It still does. But the amazing thing is that God was in it, and this guy's now doing really, really well. But he went to jail. The next day, I just fell apart. I fell apart to the point where I didn't care about anything or anyone. And it was hard for 6 or 8 weeks. I just was lost in a fog of not caring. So I went from massive commitment, chasing down every crisis that was going on, to not caring at all.
And what helped you to move on from this season of, I guess, burnout, really?
Yeah, it was burnout. Well, I think I had to recognise that, and I do recognise now, that burnout is a form of mental illness. It comes from stress, it comes from just exhaustion. And I felt lost, isolated, depressed, all those kind of symptoms of various mental health illnesses. And I think initially I had the sense, even though I would say to you, and it sounds awful, I didn't care about God. If you had said to me, "Helen, can I pray for you, Kim?" I would have said, "Only if you make it short." I felt that bad. But I realised that I needed to ask for help. So I went to Christian leaders around me and I sought help. I called counties and spoke to Martin, and wonderfully, Martin put me in touch with Phil and Jan Sparks, and they were perfect. They were absolutely brilliant. Phil rang me on a couple of occasions, and they took me out for lunch, and it was just a kindness and a support and a wisdom that I needed at the time, just to slow down, take stock, and listen to other people around me. But I was, as I say, I can't emphasise it enough. That 6 or 8 weeks, I literally woke up in the morning, sat in front of the television all day, and went to bed by about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. It was mad. Nothing mattered to me. So I just want to paint that picture that if you are hit by this burnout, it smacks you in the face. There's no question. It just knocks you. But in reaching out, that was amazing. And Christian leaders at my church were amazing too. Somebody recommended an amazing book. Wayne Cordero, the guy who wrote Divine Mentor. This is called Leading on Empty. And it's a fantastic book for Christian leaders who might be facing or have faced burnout. Really, really good. Basically, the principle is if you don't put effort into filling yourself up, we're all a tank of wellness, if you like. And if you don't fill yourself up at the top, then as you allow your resources to deplete by giving them to others, by caring for other people, that tank will empty, and when it does empty, you'll just stop. And that's what happened to me. So that's what he's saying, leading on empty. He talks about filling our lives with good things for us. So I have learnt to go hiking, and I've learnt that I can have my own interests and take time for myself. I switch the phone off, or at least I know how to stop answering it. I might see, oh, look, it's Johnny, and clearly I know Johnny's in crisis. Well, that's okay. Johnny can be in crisis on his own for the moment, because I'm not the person to help him right now. I think I probably was of a mindset that said I was able to fix these people. I never deliberately went into that place, but I had got into this habit that if there was a crisis, Superman went after them. I was crazy. As I say, I didn't set out to do that. If you'd have asked me that, I would have denied it. But I'm sure I was doing that. In the aftermath of breakdown, I worked out that God is the only one who can fix people. And I am delighted to tell you that today. And it works. He is the answer. And I've always said that, but I'm now actually beginning to live it. And we see that. We can say, Johnny, you'll have to wait. You'll have to wait. We need a break now. Joe and me need to sit down and do nothing. And there's a guy I'm dealing with at the moment. It's hilarious. He just only calls me out of hours. He will only call me at 6 in the morning.
Oh, that's early.
3 times between 6 and 6:45. I got phone calls recently, and I just don't answer them. Or at 10 o'clock at night, or at the weekends. And I say to him, look, I won't use his name. I say, look, you need to realise I care about you. I want to help you, but you need to give me a chance to restore myself as well. So call me in the right times. 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I will generally answer the call. They learn. I'm asking more of my guys and girls, and they're responding, and we're getting better behaviour out of them. I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
So what would your advice be then to others that may be in a similar situation to what you were, and how they can get out of it, really?
One of the things I think I allowed was that I became a bit of a loner. I know that as evangelists, as church leaders, we often start out with either no team or a very small team. Nevertheless, do not get into that place where you've just got into the habit that only I can do it. I'm sure I did that. And so even when there were opportunities for people to take things off me, I would somehow find a reason why they shouldn't do that. And that was unhelpful. I now have a team. I cannot believe I'm telling you this. I've got a team of 5 of us It's amazing. All of them are volunteers. The other 4 are all volunteers. And it's so lovely that they are so committed, so supportive of me. And we've got 1 or 2 graduates of our program of rehabilitation, and so they help as well. So we've now got a really active, genuine team, and that is something I would ask God for. Don't be a lone wolf. It's just so risky. I won't say dangerous. Sometimes we have to do that, and God is in that in those times. But certainly I would not want to be on my own if I can possibly help it. All the time I had trustees around me supporting me, and trustees of our charity. I didn't always accept their help as much as I do now. So that's certainly something else.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. It's quite personal, story. So thank you, and I hope it does help other people who may be in a similar situation to you.
Well, thanks for that really powerful interview there, Kim. Certainly, I've only found myself, I don't know what it was like for you, Aderyn, but within 30 seconds, I found myself being quite emotional watching that. It was powerful stuff, wasn't it?
Oh, indeed it was, Tim. It was very emotive, and you could really feel actually his heart and his concern for who he was working with, but also the exhaustion, the absolute burnout that he experienced.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he flagged at that book by Wayne Cordeiro, Leading on Empty, and I like that picture, in the sense that we've got to keep topping our tanks up. These are important things for us to do, and it's so easy if you're involved in Christian work, whether you've got secular employment and you're giving your spare time in a voluntary capacity, or whether you're in paid or full-time Christian work. We just keep, if we're not careful like him, we keep telling ourselves everything is important, and so we just keep pressing on with the mission. And it's such a difficult thing to sort of pull back from, isn't it?
And it's such a necessity to, top that tank up, because, you can't pour from an empty cup at all. And I particularly like the bit, is like, we shouldn't be lone wolves. We're in danger then, we're in danger of being attacked. We're in danger of sheer exhaustion of doing everything ourselves. And I love how God, provided what he needed. He provided a team. So it's really important to draw people in, to utilize those skills. And I know, Tim, you in leadership, you've been great with our church. You find the people who have leadership skills, or the skills that you need, and you utilize that, but you release them to do that work. And I think that's key, isn't it? You speak a lot to other leaders about actually giving up work.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm one of the big things I'm passionate about is actually doing myself out of a job all the time and keep giving things up. So I was the worship leader when we started, but I haven't touched a guitar for probably a year or 2 now. You keep giving things up, and I think one of the things that I've really tried to drill down on, and I'm still a work in progress on this, but is reminding myself that the best gift I can give to the church, the best gift I can give to my family, the best gift I can give to the ministry that I'm working and involved in, is to be a healthy person. That's physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So whatever I need to do to be physically, emotionally, and healthy spiritually, I need to prioritize. Because if I'm not healthy, everything else is going to become unhealthy around me. And that's been one of the big things I've tried to sort of, keep in my mind. So I have a thing which is like, I've called it Tim's top tips. And I want to just share 3 things which will share with me when I first started in Christian work I found really helpful. So number 1, do something fun every day. So just find something that fills your tank, essentially. So it may be just, for me, it might be just putting on some music, which is just fun and just lifts my spirits, and may not even be Christian music, but it's just, I'm coming home from the church or whatever else, or from a meeting. I just turn the CD player on in the car and put it up quite loud, and that's fun. No one else is there, no one else can hear. It's fun, whatever it might be. Do something fun, watch a game of football, whatever. So that's to do each day, each week. Take a day off each week, and have a holiday, have a complete break every single year. So those are my 3 things that I feel are essential to underpin a healthy life. And I think, Darren, you'll share some stuff with us probably maybe a bit later on.
Oh, definitely. And my husband particularly likes your tips, Tim, because Tim's tips, they're really quite easy to remember. It's in the ones. So it's one thing a day, 1 day a week, and at least one holiday a year. So they're quite easy to remember. Hard to implement. You can remember them.
Yeah, that whole area of emotionally healthy spirituality is explored in a book by Pete Scazzero. And if you're struggling with this whole issue of balance and health and getting the spiritual healthiness and also the emotional balance in your life, fantastic book to read. I haven't got a copy because I lent it to someone else and they're so enjoying it. They keep rereading it. But definitely would recommend it's the book for you if you want to try and get that kind of balance in your life and thinking about the Sabbath rest. And you've probably got a book as well, have you, Aderyn, that you would like to recommend?
I do, and it comes more into relevance when we have our second interview in a little while, where it talks about giving your best yes to God. And it's a book by Lisa Tierkhurst, and it's called The Best Yes. And it's really, here it is, we'll put the details up. And it's really good about learning that there's a big difference between saying yes to everyone and then saying yes to God. And actually that's the best yes you can have. You know, it's really looking at curing the disease to please that we can often fall into the trap of, and escaping the guilt and shame of disappointing others, so that we can actually, you know, be reassured when we say no, because we're giving our best yes to God. So it's a fantastic book full of practical tips. So I really recommend that.
Good. Well, so I hope that'll be helpful to people. So we're going to run now into a 60-second, I called it the 1 minute wonder, because every week we're going to have this feature.
One evangelist, 3 questions in 60 seconds.
Hello, my name is Paul, and when I was younger I wanted to be either a cameraman or a stuntman, and during this time of lockdown I've actually been using the skills of a cameraman to film some assembly videos and some puppet videos. Interesting, isn't it, how God uses the things that we were maybe interested in as children. The stuntman job, well, maybe that hasn't happened just yet. Now, if I had to choose between rugby and football, I guess I would choose football, probably because I watched a lot of football when I was growing up. And my favourite song, well, again, that takes me back to my childhood, sitting in the school hall, singing along to the hymns, and my favourite hymn, I think, back then is one called At the Name of Jesus.
Well, thanks for that. Next week we'll have another mystery guest, and we'll have to just wait and see who it's going to be. Don't know who it's going to be, Aderyn?
Oh, I don't know. That's what makes it a mystery, Tim.
Yes. I'm on tender hooks. I just can't wait.
Oh, I do love those. It's actually surprising what you can learn in just 60 seconds. Right, so next we have another interview with Helen, and we've got 2 guests coming on. It's Charissa, Cooke and Penny Curley, 2 more evangelists, and sharing how they have experienced seasons of burnout and what they've done to put in place certain structures or plans to prevent that from happening again, and also just how they can lean on God and really experience His power and His restoration for rest. So it's really great that we can hear from Charissa and Penny.
Before lockdown and before coronavirus, your lives were very busy anyway, and this week we're looking at, you know, finding time for rest and finding time with your faith. So I'm just wondering if you could maybe start with you, Penny, talking about how your life is very busy, and is there any point in your life where you had to reevaluate what you were doing? You could talk about that.
In terms of personal devotions and time for God, I found it's quite a small house with quite a lot going on, and I have discovered really the only time is if I manage to get up for everyone else, which at the moment is fine because they're all getting up late because they can. So that's my quiet time, that's my peace time. But this time last year, some of you may know that I thought I was doing fine, but I was extremely busy and coping with a few crises, one after another, in terms of friendships and individuals within the church, and I just hit one Sunday morning, and the person behind me just tapped me on the shoulder and then appeared at my knee and said, "Penny, you're drifting." And I just went, and my body just stopped. And I had 3 days where I really just couldn't move. So I had quite a dramatic, right, time to stop. And since then, it has been a huge amount of reevaluating, working out what replenishes me, what drains me. And that's been hard to do, because usually I just say, yes, let's do it. Let's get on with it. Whatever it is, if we can do it, we can do it. Yeah. So that's been a difficult psychological shift, really. I've had to change the way I think about what I do and how I do it. So yes, I hit a brick wall through not making wise decisions. And for me, that is one of the distinct learning moments, I think, from this last year for me, has been that I have to make good decisions when I am well about my boundaries, and I have to share those with other people, because as soon as I start deteriorating and getting too busy or too anxious and my mental health becomes a little bit shaky, my decision making is shot. It's gone. So unless those things are already in place, I just continue to spiral downwards.
So how long do you spend in the morning? Is that before anybody else gets up in the house? So
yeah. So So I get up early doors, so I can have a long time, because I find that it's not even just time with God. It's I'm reading something and I'm like, whoa, like, what does that really mean? I'll be Googling certain words. I'll be thinking, what does, especially in the Old Testament, because I try and read through the Bible in the year Bible. So if I'm regularly reading the whole Bible, you're coming across some really crazy stuff that does not sit right, does not make sense, and you have to grapple with big things. In the morning, you're like, whoa, God, why did you let that happen? How come you said go and do that? The huge big things that you want your mind to be able to settle with, but it's also then focusing yourself on God so that you have the strength of the Holy Spirit to get you through the day.
So have you got any advice to people who may be watching this, who maybe work in church, or, and they're leading really busy lives at the moment and trying to find that balance? Have you got any advice to people, any from your own experience of what you could share? Penny?
I would say that time with God, when I miss that, or it gets squashed for some reason, you really notice it. I really only manage about half an hour. But it's not feeling guilty about that either if you don't manage it, or it doesn't happen the way, or you don't get any particular feeling or emotional response to it. It's just knowing that you've asked God to be part of what's going to happen that day. And then the idea of surrounding yourself with God is one that's been really helpful. UCB, as just having Christian music, the Bible being read in the background, just bits and pieces, having conversations with friends about God and what's going on in their lives. Just those things keep you close, walking with God. Practically, I think I did go to a Christian counsellor, and that was really helpful, just to try and help sort out the things that needed to be thought through, because I think we need help with that sometimes. And the other thing that I found very useful was to divide my day into 3. And when I was not well physically, I only allowed myself to fill one of those thirds. And then as I got slightly better, I was allowed to fill 2 thirds. So a morning and an evening, or a morning and an afternoon. But at no stage was is it a good idea to fill all 3? It's incredibly difficult when you've got young kids. But that as a principle really has helped me over this last year, just to get a bit more balance, and to know that that's okay. And that third that is away from other people, perhaps not looking after their needs, I can do things.
Yeah,
sleep.
And you, Charissa, any final words?
Yeah, I think just like spending that time with God in the mornings really, really helps me. And like what Penny was saying, there was I heard a really good analogy from Bill Johnson, and he said, you know, sometimes people read the Bible and then they forget it, and they can't remember what they read last week. And he said, well, I had breakfast last Friday morning. I can't remember what I had for breakfast last Friday morning, but it nourished my body and it gave me energy for that day. And I think that sometimes with the word of God, you sometimes it's like lightning, you know, wow, light bulb moments. Other times it's not, you know, and it's the same with asking the Holy Spirit to fill your day. Sometimes it's lightning bolts like wow, and sometimes it's just like a deep sense of peace. But it's that daily walk of just surrendering to God in everything. And if we can live our lives without God, without relying on him, then that's not what it's about. We're not going to see God work in our lives. We're not going to see God grow in our lives. If we are in a place where every day that there are situations, there are things that we can only rely on God for, that's when we really see him move. So I feel really challenged by that, and I'm not there at all, but that's where I want to be. I want to be living my life daily, relying on him, stepping out in faith, doing and saying things that I just know that if you don't kick in right now, egg on my face. So God, please kick in, you know, because then that gives God the chance to live through me. And so we need to give him that opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your experiences and advice for others. And I hope it's been worthwhile for everyone. So thank you very much.
Thanks
It's
for
a
having
pleasure.
us.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Bye.
There you go.
Wow, that was really, really great. Thank you, Penny and Charissa, and thank you for Helen for leading that interview there. It was really, really powerful. And as a mum, it's just so good to hear other women's journeys, actually. I think it's relevant to all of us, what they were saying. But in particular, I really, really liked what Penny said about actually, you know, we need to make good decisions when we are in a good place and make good decisions about our boundaries. Because actually, when we have taken on too much, when it is compacting on us, that anxiety, that fear, and our ability to make good decisions just goes out the window. So it's really taking a step back when we are scheduling, we are prioritizing, and making sure we can maintain that as we go through life. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, no, I like that whole concept that you break the day into 3 segments. And, you know, she was saying that she found that she worked more than 2 of those, then it created a problem for her. And, you know, I think that's quite wise. And, you know, I've heard different people talk on that kind of example. And certainly in my own life, I definitely break the day into 3. And I try not to work all 3 very often. If I do, I try to ease off the next day or make sure I've got some slack in my system somewhere. Because if you keep working all those 3, you're going to end up crashing and burning, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's very true. And then with Charissa as well, she was really talking about like the flesh versus the spirit. I love that, you know, because that's so true. We're all facing that battle every day. And it's how we take that to God. And actually, when we've taken that time with God, when we've set aside time to commune with him, to be with him, to hear from him, we're actually stronger. And then we're stronger to be able to live in the spirit more and just access God more that way. So I really, really enjoyed that. And I loved how she spoke about, you know, just being so honest with God. You know, God, I can't get up in the morning. If you want this time with me, if I want this precious time with you, but your power is going to have to be the thing that makes this happen.
Yeah, and the way she's explained also about how she felt it was quite important to have things in your life that only God can come through on and do. And if he doesn't, we've kind of got egg on our face. I love that phrase because it's very easy to play everything safe. And, you know, actually, are we walking by faith? You know, we're not called to walk by faith, not by sight. And you know, it's a good test, isn't it? You know, if we're doing things and God doesn't come through for us, then maybe we're not doing the things he wants us to do. And that's his sort of warning light for us. There's all sorts of things there. So yeah, brilliant, really helpful. And you must have some top tips for us too, Aderyn, I'm sure.
So we've gone from Tim's top tips, so we'll get there. Aderyn doesn't go with anything, so we're just going to go into 3 tips that I have thought about. And for me, these work for me. So number 1 is to schedule. They're all S's, Tim. You'll like this. So they all link together.
Very good.
So number 1 is to schedule. And, you need to have a plan. And it's taking that time out, actually, to put things in order. And it's not just about scheduling your to-do list. Scheduling rest is vital. And actually, your to-do list needs to work around that rest time and not the other way around. Don't try and fit in your pockets of rest. You actually need to schedule your rest first. And I find it's more successful when I do it that way. Then the second is self-care. I know that's going to cause a bit of controversy. I'm not talking about it's all about me and it's, I've got to put myself first. It's not about that. It's actually just recognizing that our bodies aren't machines. We need to actually take care of them. And that means good food. It means good exercise. It means pausing and just withdrawing a bit from the chaos of the world and the noise of the world. So that's self-care, whatever that might look like for you, whether it's taking a bath, whether it's reading a book, doing a quiz, taking time out in the garden, but also nourishing our bodies by reading God's word and filling them with good food is really important. And then my third one is sacrifice or surrender. And what I mean by that is to actually sacrifice things that aren't time worthy of us. We need to put down things that are actually taking us away or distractions from the work we should be doing or the time we should be spending with God. And that's being really, really honest with ourselves. That's surrendering perhaps things that aren't healthy for us. And just surrendering ourselves back into God's care and seeing that we have value and making sure that we value the relationship that we have with God. So just being able to sacrifice some of the things of this world, saying no, and prioritizing God above everything else. Yep.
Yeah, and I guess that probably part of that is actually sacrificing things which may be good things, but not the very best things that you could be doing, and finding a way through that. That's brilliant. I really like that. So your 3 S's. I know a lot of preachers out there will be really impressed with that. Good. Well, we're really glad that you've been able to join us for this Church Connect. We certainly found it really helpful and encouraging as we've talked these things through and listened to the different interviews. And I hope you have. Join us again next Friday, 12:30, because we're going to do a Father's Day special. So this is really looking at the best blueprint we can have for fathers and just sharing that father heart of God. So Phil Davis will be with us with Beverly Bedford, and I know that it's going to be something really worth coming and joining us for. So see you then, and have a great weekend and get some rest in. That's the important bit.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.